Okay, first let me say that my approach to the question, the challenge that we are facing, is rather sociological and based on my studies, research, and concern for gender issues, gender analysis, and human rights and women's rights. So it's not based on any particular ideology or political orientation, but concern for how we can, as a person who has been born and raised in a Muslim, Shia Muslim context, and parents, although I personally have really believed in interfaith and respect for all religions, especially the elements of religions that are for promotion of tranquility, spirituality, and coexistence, peaceful coexistence among human beings. So at the anniversary, the first anniversary of abduction of hundreds of young girls in Nigeria by Boko Haram, this can't be, this is very timely for us to get together and remember them, because they have been practically enslaved in the name of Islam. And that, along with several other atrocities that are happening in different parts of the world, again, unfortunately, in the name of Islam, creates a responsibility for whoever upholds an identity as Muslim to do something about it, to respond at least to that, and to find a way to stop it, to stop this madness. This is a daunting and urgent responsibility, but it has to be done carefully, sensitively, and sensibly. As the trouble is that many progressive Muslims, many peace-loving Muslims, find themselves trapped between bigotry and fear, as some have noted. For example, Kenan Malik, in one of his articles in New York Times, wrote about this, being trapped in between bigotry and fear. For many, the criminal and terrorist actions of groups like Al-Shabaab and ISIL or Daesh promote anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia. So many liberal and leftist Muslims prefer to sidestep the issue by suggesting that the Taliban or ISIL do not represent real Islam, including President Obama and David Cameron or many others, who argue that the actions of these groups are driven by politics, not religion. Which in many ways, that is a true argument. But the problem, and I can understand that a politician, a state leader, especially from a powerful country like the US, which is one of the targets of this attack, is understandable as a politically savvy and perhaps good strategy to distinguish millions of Muslims from those terrorists. But as a researcher, as a sociologist, as someone who has been studying religion for many years, that doesn't suffice to me, and that doesn't help many of us to come up with a strategy that can bring about some changes. Because, again, when I look at different religions, not just Islam, I can understand that there is no single Islam, no single Christianity. There are versions of Islam as versions of different other religions. Islam doesn't exist in abstract, doesn't exist in vacuum. There is no essential Islam. I really honestly don't believe that there is a real Islam, a true Islam. I believe that there are several types of Islam, several types of Muslims. So my hope and the challenge for me, and I think many who respect Islam, who are identified as Muslim, is that how we can marginalize, not necessarily just by military might and violently kill off and destroy these terrorists who are giving such a bad name to our faith, but how to win them over by promoting a version of Islam which is compatible with peaceful coexistence, compatible with modernity, with democracy, with human rights, women's rights, pluralism, rights of non-Muslims, minorities, and non-believers, including atheists. What kind of Islam we can promote that make most of Muslims feel better and more in peace and more at ease with living in today's world, today's globalizing world. So to explore on this proposition, my emphasis has been on women's rights. I believe one of the challenges that Muslims are facing is how to make their faith more compatible with universal human rights, especially women's rights, and how to live in a democratic societies. And I believe it cannot happen unless we come up with a platform, a common platform among Muslims that are respectful of their faith, respectful of diversity, but also compatible with principles of liberal democracy and universal human rights. And that kind of platform ought to be secular. Unfortunately, secular has been misunderstood and misused. By secular, I don't mean to be anti-religion. I mean the ones who believe in separation of the institutions of religion from the institutions of a state, meaning separation of state and church, so to speak. Because it is only in that case that religion can remain healthy and uncorrupted. Because a theocratic state, as the examples we have seen in existing examples of it, can corrupt both the religion and religious authorities and the state. Look at the case of the Iranian state system that has intertwined theology and religious authorities, clerics, mullahs, with they have actually built an oligarchy of the military force, the Revolutionary Guards, and a bunch of mullahs, not all of them, the clerics, and some very rich Bazari who have made the ruling class. And that has impacted religion very negatively and has also made the state corrupt and rather dysfunctional. So that is my proposition. And in order to do that, there are many now, fortunately, increasing voices of reformists who are dealing with the question of the challenges, the problems that exist within the practice and the fiqh, the jurisprudence, and the Sharia law, which those who are promoting Islamism or Islamic State, like ISIL, want to restore and make the law of the land, right, Sharia. But that Sharia itself, even if we have a secular state, needs to be reformed, needs to be updated, so to speak, needs to be revised and reinterpreted to make it compatible with the new realities. Even if Sharia is not the law of the land, but as Muslims we need in our even private life and aspects of public life, which is influenced by our beliefs, we need to revisit it and reinterpret it, as some Muslim reformers, Muslim feminists, Muslim Democrats are trying to do that. For instance, in Iran, which I'm more familiar with, especially because it has been perhaps the first Islamic state that has made the Sharia as the rule of the land, there are increasing number of reformers who are speaking against a theocratic system. Even some of those clerics who participated in building the Islamic State in Iran are now part of the opposition. One example is a Grand Ayatollah, Ayatollah Montazeri, who was supposed to succeed Ayatollah Khomeini. He was put under house arrest because he didn't like the way an Islamic state was in practice. He changed his mind about Velayat Faqih, absolute rule of the jurist. And he said, oh, I didn't mean that. It doesn't work the way I initially thought. And he started criticizing Ayatollah Khomeini and later Ayatollah Khamenei. He was put under house arrest. Today, the former Prime Minister of Iran, former head of the Majlis are under house arrest, and his wife too. Many political prisoners in Iran are devout Muslim believers. So that's why I'm saying a theocratic state corrupts religion. It is against religious freedom and plurality and against democracy and tolerance. So these voices of reform, like Abdul Karim Soroush, like Mohammad Mushtahid Shabestari, Mohsen Kadivar, Hassan Yousefi Eshkevari, Arash Naraqi, Mustafa, I forgot his last name. There are several of them. And also women like Shirin Ebadi and others are promoting the version of Islam which is more compatible with and trying to reform the Sharia law. Those who are promoting Sharia, just the way it is today, are trying to tell us, especially the ulama, the clerics, that Sharia is written on the stone. It is the divine rule of God. And that is, to be honest, not true, if not a blatant lie. Because Sharia, like any historical construct, has been understood, interpreted, codified, and developed by human beings. Almost all of them men. Almost all of them from male perspective to institutionalize or reinforce patriarchy that was not created by Islam. But prior to that, it was existing, but they used religion to actually sanctify some of the practices, patriarchal practices. So people like Shabestari today says, when especially he writes about Daesh and groups like that, he says, let's see the elephant in the room. Let's not just say and make us feel good and comfortable and not as responsible, saying that, oh, they are not Muslims. Whoever say, I am Muslim, period. He or she is Muslim. Who are we to say that you are not Muslim? But the problem is that what kind of Muslim? And he says, let's promote the voice of those people who are promoting peaceful, non-violent, and democratic Islam, rather than saying that those are not Muslim, because that's not going to solve our problem. Since my time is over, maybe I can elaborate more on these, especially with regard to certain rules, sexist rules, during discussion and answer. Thank you.
Thank you.